What's up, everyone? My name is Austin Dorman, and welcome back to Funnels for Real Estate Agents. And today we're going to be diving into updating and creating your style inside of ClickFunnels 2.0, updating that style guide. So before we get started, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'd love to also hear your feedback as well. So if you want to leave any questions that you have down in the descriptions below, I'll be able to answer your questions. So the reason why we want to update our style guide inside of ClickFunnels 2.0 is basically the style guide is your branding. So it's going to be your fonts that you use, the colors that you use, and basically anything associated with your brand and you. And so that's why it's good to update the style guide inside ClickFunnels 2.0 because once we start building funnels, and we'll do more funnel tutorials down the road, but once you're building funnels or your website inside ClickFunnels 2.0, it just makes everything so easier in terms of updating the colors that you use, the fonts that you use, and so by attaching a style guide to a funnel, it just makes the whole process go a little bit smoother. And so to begin, we're going to go to the style guide. And to navigate to the style guide, we're going to go to the bottom left-hand corner under workspace settings, and we're going to click on it. Now we're going to click on styles right here. And on this page, we're going to see a list of all the styles that we have. So we have the name on the left-hand corner, utilized by, this is the funnels or themes that we use for each style guide. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have customized designs. So if you ever want to make updates or edits to your style guide, you could click on customized designs. You could clone a style as well. So if you're like, hey, I like this style, but I just want to slightly tweak it, we could clone it and then update the new style guide just so that you have two separate ones if that's what you want. And then over here, we have edit. So if we click edit, this is where we could rename the style guide. And if there's not a funnel or anything associated with the style guide, you could also delete it here as well. So we're going to do discard changes. Now there's two options of what you could do. If you already have style guides, you could always just customize it right here. If you're new, you could click new style and then you could create your own style guides from scratch. And so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to do customized designs here on this test styles. And so over here on the left-hand side, we have a few different options of what we could do to edit our style guide. We have fonts, so like the letters, the colors, shadow, border, button, and then corners as well. So we're going to kind of dive into each one. So the first thing that we're going to do is click on fonts. And so these are the fonts that we want to edit. And over here we get a little preview of what it is. So we have the base size for desktop and the base size font for mobile. So it's set to 16 for desktop, 17 for mobile. Then we have headlines, subheadlines, and content. So if we go over here, this is the headline right here, the subheadline, and then the content. And so if we click on, let's say, for example, the headline, we have a whole bunch of different options of what we could do. The first one is we could update the font under the font family. And so this is for the headline. So currently it's Noto Sans JP. And so there's a list of fonts that we want or that you could select from. So let's say if I choose Roboto. And then the weight, this is the default weight. So instead of bold, maybe I like regular. And then letter spacing is just the spacing in between the letters. And then we also have line height as well. So the space in between the lines. And then we have sizes. So there's extra large, large, medium, and small. And so these are the default settings of what we could set it as. So we have 50 pixels for extra large, 38 pixels for large, 28 pixels for medium, and 21 pixels for small. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have extra large right here. So this is what it would look like with 50 pixels, 38 pixels for large, 28 pixels for medium, and then 21 pixels for small. So that's for desktop. Now mobile, it's very similar too. So we have the letter spacing for mobile, and then this also updates on the right-hand side once we start updating here. So we have the letter spacing, so the space in between the letters. We have the line height as well, so same thing, the spaces in between the line. And then these are the default settings for extra large, large, medium, and small for mobile. And so this just gives you a preview of what it would look like. So if we go back, subheadline and contents, they're very similar. Basically, it's the same setup, all the same inputs, so I won't go into depth further from there. And we'll just click update for right now. And that is, let's go back to style guide. So that's fonts. Now we have colors. So the colors are the colors that we'll be using for the fonts, for the section, background, for any icons as well. And so over here on the right hand side, these are the colors that you could edit and select. So let's say, for example, we want this one to be, let's say like a greenish one. And then maybe this one, let's say we want a yellow one. And then this red one, let's say we want like a blue one. Maybe like a lighter blue. So kind of funky colors right now, but ideally what you would want to do is just update the colors based off of your styles. And so these are the theme colors up here at the top. And then down here at the bottom, these are different basically combinations of the colors that you could use. So we have the lightest background right here, where you could update the base color, the overlay color, the headline, subheadline, content colors, and then also the links, icons, and bullets. So if we did this one, update it here for the link, that updated right here. If we update the icon to be this red, it would update this right here. And bullet points, let's say if we wanted this brown, it would update here. And then similar with the text as well. And so you could basically set these settings up here in the style guide, and then once you start building your funnel, let's say you say, hey, I have this section and I want it to be the darkest background, you could just select it, and then all the default settings that you applied here would be applied to the funnel as well. So let's actually discard this for right now. Go to shadow. Now, shadow settings, this is kind of fun because I use shadows a lot for buttons to make the button kind of pop out a little bit. And so these are some of the default settings for shadows. And so you get to select 3 different styles for your shadows. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So if we go shadow style 1, 2, and 3 right here. For shadow style, you have a few different options of what you could do. You could do outset, so going out, or inset, going inside. I typically like doing outset personally. And then the Y and X, the X and Y direction just tells you where you want to position your shadow. So probably what I would do if I was building out a funnel, I'd probably do something like this. So it's a little bit like below it to give it that pop. And then the blur, this is just how blurry you want it to be. So the more blur, kind of, you can't really see it other than there's, just colors. And then if you do all the way down, it's very blocky. So typically I like to do maybe something like this. And spread is just how wide you want it to go. So if we did more wide, it would spread out all the way. And then if we did it less spread, so I probably do something like that. So it's popping out a little bit, but it's not too crazy. And then color, you could also update the color here as well. So let's say we want a red shadow, we could do that. Or if we want like a blue, we could select that default right there. Now the border, so this is similar to shadows where you still have 3 styles, 1, 2, and 3, and they're over here on the right-hand side. For border style, you could do, what is that? It's a solid line. You could do dotted and then kind of like a more dotted. You could select the color, and then the stroke size is kind of the thickness of it. So the more you go over, the thicker it is. The more you go left, there's nothing. So yeah, so this is dotted, dash, and then solid. Buttons. Now with buttons, there's a lot of things that you could do. So there's 3 different default styles that you could select. And then button states, the default is as if you weren't clicking on the button. So it's as if you're just, leaving it alone. Hover is if you're hovering over the button. So we saw that it changes colors from green to blue. And then pressed is when you press the button. So I'm pressing the button now and it turns back to green. And so these are the 3 different default button states that you could select and edit and update. So the background is just the background of the button. So we could change this, let's say, to this blue right here, bluish green. The text color is just updating the text. And then if there is any subtext as well, you could update that here. And then I would recommend doing default hover and pressed, just kind of updating it to be whatever you want. The primary text style. So this is almost as if you were updating the headline, subheadline, and content. So you have the button font. You could select what font you would like to use. The weight, whether it's thin, regular, or semi-bold here. And then this is actually important. This little chain icon, if it's deselected, that means you could change the font size of desktop and mobile to be 2 different things. If you leave it kind of activated or where it's like blue, that's where it's basically saying like, hey, I want it to be used for the same thing. Letter spacing, we already went through it, but just updating the spacing in between the letters, and the line height we already talked about as well. Text casing, so there's a few different options of what you could do. This kind of just leaves it as if it was like normal text casing. So the first thing would be, I guess the first letter would be uppercase, but you could do lowercase, all caps, and then kind of a mix, which almost seems like the same thing as the first one. Decorations, you could do underline, strike through, or this one where there's a line above and below the text. And then primary text shadows. So if you want to update some shadow on the text here, you could do that here as well. So you can't really see it, but I would suggest just kind of playing around with it. So you could do the X and Y offset, the blur, and the color, which we already talked about before with shadows. And then subtext style, so that's just updating the subtext right here. We won't go through this, it's just the same information, so we'll kind of bypass that. And then we already talked about border, so we won't go into that, but corners we haven't talked about. So corners, let's say this was, actually let's kind of make it a box, rectangle. The corners are the corners of the button, so right now it's a rectangle, so the top left you could update it here, so it's 56 pixels rounded here, and then you could do it for top right, bottom left, and then bottom right. You could also do so this is separate edges enabled, meaning that you could edit each individual corner. But what you could do as well is you could disable it so it's all the same. And so if we put in maybe let's just update this to 43, it's all 43 rounded pixels for all the corners. And then the shadow, we already talked about the shadow, so we won't necessarily worry about it here, but this is the shadow for the button. And then corners, we kind of already talked about it, but you can select 3 different corner settings, and then you can also do it disabled or enabled for separate edges, and then you could update it accordingly based off of that setting. So that was a lot about the style guide, but taking the time to update the style guide is so important because it just makes building funnels a lot easier. You don't have to worry about whether like what color, you don't have to basically go back to be like, oh, what color did I use? What font size did I use? You could just apply the style guide to that funnel. If you make updates to the style guide, it flows through to the funnel as well. So that makes it super nice. So definitely take the time to update your style guide. And let me know if you have any questions as well. So in the comments, let me know if you have any questions about updating the style guide, or maybe if there's something that wasn't super clear, let me know about that. And then also in the descriptions, I'm going to put a few helpful resources as well. The first one, it's going to be the Your First Funnel Challenge. This is a challenge if you're trying to figure out how to build sales funnels or want to build your own first sales funnels for your business. This is a 5-day challenge where you're going to hear from a lot of great speakers and also be able to basically get your hands dirty and start building funnels. So I'll do that, and then I'll also link a 14-day free trial of Clickfunnels as well. So if you want to play around with Clickfunnels, you could do that. And then also include a few different other resources as well, just in the description. So make sure you take a look at those as well. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Love to hear any feedback that you have, and we'll see you next time at Funnels for Real Estate Agents. Bye.